so full. Well, we got, so I mean, like I said, kind of rambled before, but the namesake for my small farm, my wife Molly and I, is Pink Teepee Farms, and so that's where we're at. But Sourced in Nature is a business we co-own with Brian and his wife. So it's like his farm and our farm, kind of under this umbrella that is Sourced in Nature, and we do all that stuff together. So, anyways,
cool. Well, cheers.
Yeah, cheers,
Brandon.
Cheers, man.
Cheers. Cheers. Welcome to the Becoming Alpha podcast. My name is Dan. As always, we got Brandon sitting behind the camera. We are sitting here with the owner of Sin Foods, Ben.
Hey,
in a teepee. This is Ben's teepee on his lawn.
That's right.
In the fields. How did you get this teepee?
So this teepee has been around with my family since my wife and I got married. So we got the fabric from a company out west, and got the poles and stuff put together here, and yeah, it's pretty special. Again, it's been at our wedding, and we come in here and have all sorts of celebrations and fun times.
You got a peace pipe?
Yeah, sure. Have to. You have to.
Hell yeah. What'd you do with it for your wedding?
So we had it set up there. We actually had a bunch of, you could go and sit in there on some couches and pillows and blankets and stuff, and that's where all the cigars and everything were for people to go and have a session. Sick. Yeah.
And you made it yourself?
Yeah, part of it. Yeah. It's a lot of love for sure.
Yeah. So what's this California company? Was it from California or Colorado?
I believe it was Colorado. It was Nomadics.
Okay.
Yeah. And then
they painted it and everything?
Yeah, they paint it. So you can pick the design, but I think that logo's right there. TP.com, TIPI.com.
They got the original TP.com.
Right. Yeah. Good for them, right?
Well, let's talk about TP.com. I mean, how much did they pay for that?
Yeah. Right. In like the 90s.
They've been at this for hundreds of years. Longest known company in the United States would be TP.com. Building teepees since... Never mind.
Yeah, right.
Anyways, let's talk about Sin Foods. So,
sure.
Sin Foods is Sourced in Nature. When did you guys start?
So, my business partner, Brian DeStephanis, he started that. He filed the papers in summer of 2018, and he was doing a lot of the R&D, I would say, on some of the product development and stuff. And we were talking a little bit about it at that point, but he was really kind of, the one that started it all and really got it going. And but we had met a few years prior and been working together. So he owned
a different company, didn't he? Wasn't this two companies?
Yeah.
Brought together?
and still does Big City Greens. So that's how I met Brian. It was through my farm, Pink Teepee Farms, and we met him. And he was Big City Greens, and then we were sharing.
You couldn't get TP.com.
Sharing. I know it was taken. We were sharing space in downtown Milwaukee in like 2016 into 2000. It was 2016, and working with local restaurants and stuff. But we synced up back then and started, a good relationship and doing a lot of foraging and specialty foods and stuff. And again, so he developed some of this product line. We got into syrups, we got into specialty sauces, chef-driven kind of barbecue sauces, hot sauce, and specialty vinegar and some other things. And then we sort of joined forces, I guess, officially back in like the end of 2019 when we launched the Sourced in Nature website. And then, it's just been at it
Which
since.
is a beautiful website, honestly.
Thanks.
And how I didn't meet you, I don't remember who I met, but you were at Oconomowoc Market, and that's where I got your syrup from. And you had 4 different types of syrup?
Yep.
Dude, those were amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
That was one of the best maple syrups that I've ever tasted, and that's how I looked you guys up, and I was like, I need to see who makes this. This has to be local. And
for sure.
Do you remember who the guy was that
Yeah, it would have been Keith. So he's our employee. He was the guy that pulled in when you guys showed up. So he lives across the street from us. He's our part-time employee. I went to high school with him for a year of high school, and really good person. So he works that market and loves it. Yeah. And we love to go there and and stop by and check things out too, for sure.
Yeah, I was with my parents. It was amazing. So I had to see who that was. Looked up Sin Foods. You guys had a cool website, and I just wanted to reach out and learn more about you. I know we've been trying to meet for a year now?
Yeah.
It's been a while, yes.
Yeah. Dan said, I'm the person who usually reaches out to people, do sales or just podcast outreach. And Dan's like, get these guys. So I was like, all right, I'll figure it out.
Need to talk to these guys. Dude, we want to talk to people that do good work, that appreciate their craft and are good at it. And you guys you were killing it, I thought.
Well, thank you.
You had a great image, and there was a lot of opportunity for you to grow. And it's like, well, let's see what we can do to help.
First 2 times, I think, first time we were going to set up in the green room, and it was like -20 the day we decided.
Yep.
We were like,
God. It was really cold, so we pushed that back. And then there was another day still in winter when one of my panels broke.
Yeah.
So then it was maybe 30 outside, but it wasn't going to be 75 inside.
The universe was trying to stop us.
Just slowing us down.
And today it's raining, so we had to go in the teepee.
Yeah, that's right. But that's what it's here for.
Yeah. So I guess I'm interested because for me, I've been trying to eat healthier and cook, and just learning one new recipe is difficult. How did you start the process of creating so many different products? Like, how do you just create one and then now you're making hot sauce and syrup, and like, how does that transition?
Yeah, so I think it's a great question, and probably, fair question for a lot of people that do, whether it's large scale or small batch like ours, product lines. Like I said before, I mean, Brian he's really good at kind of sensing, what kind of product there could be a need or demand or desire for, I guess, in the marketplace. I guess I would just say even the local marketplace too, specifically. We're both from the area, grew up here, spend a lot of time here, and he's pretty good at finding that out, and we're both good, I think, at sourcing ingredients, right, and finding the stuff. So what we really like to do is incorporate, elements of the foraging or whatever we grow or farm into every product we have, right? So I mean, the maple products, all those products, whether it's the maple sugar, the maple cream, or all the syrups that we have, it's all coming from maple trees up north, right? Central Wisconsin. That these trees produce this stuff every year without fail, and you just have to, work with them to take an appropriate amount and create these awesome products. So through that, it's like we do a little bit of research into each one, and we try to reach out and collaborate with people in the area every chance we get. And like the sauces, we use our maple syrup in one of the barbecue sauces. We use our raw honey in one of the other barbecue sauces. Yeah. So it just, the list kind of keeps going, but that's sort of how it starts. I think we latch on to something like ramps, which we love to forage, wild onions. And we work that into a candied jalapeno hot sauce that gets some of the jalapenos that we grow too, and those few specialty ingredients coupled with, some talented people doing some of the legwork and trying to figure out what tastes the best. And you get these cool small batch sauces.
Is there a lot of like guess and test when it comes with that?
Yeah.
How do you know when to release it?
Sure.
Like when it's perfect.
So I guess I'd say I feel like it's never quite perfect, right? There's always some little element that you could tweak or try changing or adding to. But I mean, it's really just, about doing some taste tests. Like one of my favorite things to do is as the maple syrup, when we do the aging in the rye whiskey barrels or the bourbon barrels, we taste it, right? Like a wine or anything, you have to taste test it to see when it's ready, and just kind of waiting until the point when, okay, that tastes about right. And a couple other people have it and they're all nodding their heads and smiling, and then So for the maple syrup, how do you know what supplier to pick? Did you interview a few of them, or did you just know? So we've worked with a few different people, all right in kind of that same cluster, I guess, which I would just generalize as Central Wisconsin. So we've worked with a few different people because I would say every forest is a little bit different, right? Sometimes the syrups you get are blends of multiple producers getting blended, and you may have a light, you may have a dark, or
like
something
a blended
in between.
Whiskey almost.
Kind of, yeah, right. You're taking this lot of trees and this lot of trees a few square miles away, and another one over here, and you add it, and it's all from the same rough time period. So the chemistry of the trees is about the same at time of collection, and so you're going to have, maybe it's a little darker, or maybe it's a little lighter, depending on what time of the year it is and temperatures.
Are there like single barrel stuff? Like the elite single barrel whiskeys? Is there like a single barrel maple syrup?
Yeah, I think some people may tell you there is. I'd like to think that there are a lot of differences, right? You can harvest the stuff, old school, more traditionally, and there's a whole lot of work that goes into it, and you're cooking it over, wood burned fires and stuff like that. It's a lot of work, but there's something I feel a little bit extra when you have some of that element, right? It was done outdoors, and it was done over open fire or something like that. Yeah. But we do a little bit of both, and another cool thing about the syrup is you can do it for multiple trees more than just maple, right? So in the past, we've explored a little bit with birch syrup and hickory, and so that's something we're planning on doing again this next season. We'll get into the birch for sure.
And how do you think that's going to turn out?
I think it'll be delicious.
Birch syrup must be amazing.
It's very good. It takes a lot more birch sap cooked down to get, it's like, 40 to 1 or so for maple and a whole lot more, 400 or something.
Oh my.
It really depends on how sweet you want it to be, right? But
that's a massive difference.
Yeah, so there's a lot to it, but it'll be a blast, getting to experiment with it and develop that product out and stuff, and that's one of our plans.
How does that look, the development of the products? Like I said, because you have such a variance of products from hot sauce. How does the research and everything that goes behind that? Because it can't be exactly the same from product to product to product.
Sure.
What?
Yeah.
How do you employ a team around that and make that work?
Yeah, well, for right now, it's been a lot of Brian working with, his past and his, kind of his mind and myself too, and bouncing ideas off of each other and trying to figure out what makes sense. Like I said before, trying to find a product that maybe hasn't been that tapped into or because syrup, I guess, as an example, syrup, a lot of people make syrup, right? A lot of people make syrup, but we wanted to try and do something just a little bit extra, hence the different colors. And, we do it all by hand and it's small batch, and we wax dip every bottle ourselves, and we age the syrup and the bourbon and the rye when we do those batches, and each one has its own lot number and batch number. And so we have little elements like that go into each and every, product. But it's, I guess it's just a labor of love. We love doing this stuff and trying to find ways. Sometimes it's hard to get somebody, I guess off the street, we'll say, to eat some ramps, right? You want me to eat some green onions? That's what they look like almost from out in the woods. You know what? I don't know. But if you say, well, hey, you want to try this candied jalapeno hot sauce? You like hot sauce, right? Tons of people like hot sauce. Yeah, okay, that sounds good. Well, what's in it? Well, there are ramps in this. Oh, really? Oh, cool. And there are jalapenos, heirloom jalapenos that were grown by hand and stuff, organic methods too. And so some of these things that we can try and work in so that more people have an opportunity to at least try products with those amazing ingredients in them, if not just the ingredients by themselves.
So what is your product line right now?
So right now, we have the maple products. So it would be a brunette syrup, a virgin blonde syrup. So that's the dark and the light. And then we do aging in Central Standard Craft Distillery. We get their barrels. So we do bourbon barrel and we do rye whiskey barrel. And, once those are just to taste, if it's 4 months or 9 months that they age, whatever it may be. And then we also have, from that maple, we do maple cream and maple sugar. The maple sugar is just what it sounds like. It's sugar from a maple tree. So a lot of people don't realize, sugar cane from like tropical regions is predominant sugar used in the world, really. And then there's beet sugar, which they're actually producers in Wisconsin that grow beets to make sugar, which is used as well. But the cane sugar especially comes from a lot of times thousands of miles away. Yeah. So to think that you could go north and get sugar, is kind of a cool thing. So that maple sugar is fun. And then the maple cream is absolutely delicious. So that's basically just a more concentrated form of the syrup that gets whipped. So it has a nice spreadable kind of butter-like consistency.
Oh, those are good.
Yeah. So there's no dairy or anything in it. The only ingredient is maple sugar, maple sap. Same with the maple sugar. The only ingredient, maple sap. All the syrups, maple sap.
And to get that cream, you're basically just taking the syrup and just whipping it, right?
Right.
And then it just turns into a cream.
Yeah, you ultimately get the right consistency, and when you you have to cook it just right to get it that kind of dense and that consistency in the first place too. But that's a lot of fun. So the maples are really cool. And again, that's all, all this stuff is from Wisconsin. And then we have our honey. So we have raw white honey, which is also like a kind of butter consistency. It's solid at room temperature. But as soon as you add any heat to it, and even just, putting it on your tongue, it just melts away like butter. So that's really cool. Everybody thinks honey of runny honey, the more traditional, you see a teddy bear at the store and it's that golden liquidy. So this is more of a, a white, yellow, again, kind of solid at room temp. So that's really good. We love the honey. And then we do, small release of our honeycomb. So that's actual pieces of comb, little blocks that are about 12, 14 ounce blocks that you can eat the whole comb.
I just saw that. There was a product. They have those honeycombs within like a plastic.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen that? Is that similar to what you're talking about? I thought that was a great idea.
Yeah. So it's a little square clamshell, or not clamshell, but a little square box, plastic top, and it's like an inch tall maybe, and
I
you
forgot
just
what
set
the
that
name,
comb in there.
Yeah, I forgot what the name of the product was. But they're advertising on like Instagram and whatnot. So
Awesome.
That's essentially what you guys are selling.
Yeah,
Is
same
that-
kind of thing. Yep,
Yeah.
for sure. And I mean, there are a lot of, our raw honey is never heated. So a lot of people talk about the allergies and the benefits of having, honey or raw honey or local honey. And so we definitely prescribe to that by virtue of not heating it, because the thought is that you would denature or break down a lot of the different compounds that are in that honey. All of which came from pollen from these different, flowers. And then your body doesn't recognize them as much because they've been broken down. But if you ingest it when they're untouched, essentially, the thought is that can help your allergies.
I see. Well, they
yeah.
say that about cooking vegetables too, right? Like if you cook it, you're losing nutrients.
Yeah, certain. I've definitely read that. I mean,
Okay,
people are out there saying it.
I don't know if it's true.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I definitely eat raw vegetables. I eat cooked vegetables all the time too. I do the same thing with mushrooms. I do the same. Same thing with fish.
Is that true? I eat Panda Express.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Love it.
Gordon Ramsay says never peel your carrots.
Really?
Right.
Yeah. Never peel your carrots
Really?
because on the outside is all the nutrients.
The nutrients. It's like potatoes too.
Vitamins,
The skin.
vitamins and minerals.
Vitamins.
That's pretty good. Yeah, Gordon. Yeah. No, I think it's good to keep the the rinds onto stuff and eat as much of that as you can and everything else.
So that being like the health benefits for Sin Foods, what was the vision of why you created Sin Foods and these products?
Well, that's a solid question. I mean, I think, speaking a little bit on Brian's behalf here, of course, but I think it's really a culmination of everything he's done probably his whole life, or at least the last 15 or so years, right? And you
How
can
old
say
is
that
Brian?
about everything. He's in his late 30s.
Okay. So relatively young.
Yeah, so I mean, he was out in California and did some cool things out there over the last, up until, I don't want to say, 6-7 years ago or so, and it was pretty successful and definitely became, I would say, an expert on growing pretty much everything. And we linked up and we were able to, take each of our passions, which were kind of the same thing, which was to, I think to explore, explore the environment, explore the world, get back to, I guess in a way, get back to basics sort of with, with this land we all live on, and find all these awesome, powerful, healthy foods that are out there in the landscape, just kind of waiting for us to come and find them and use them. And, I think society in general has gotten away from that largely, at least in our part of the world, over the last 100+ years.
Yeah, they have.
100%.
Yeah, so it's it's an effort to try and kind of pay homage to people of the past and ways of living of the past, but also do it in our amazing now, where we can ship this stuff down to Phoenix, Arizona, or to Alabama, or to Chicago or New York, and people all over maybe where ramps don't grow, or they've been out of season for a couple months, can get them from us, or the fine mushrooms, or all these different foods, the honeys, the syrups, sauces that we're talking about too.
Yeah.
So a few different things kind of playing in there, but several years of farming between both of us, both of our families, and the desire to find and develop really good products and give them to really good people.
Yeah. I hope there's a movement moving forward with companies like yours, where it's these smaller companies instead of this factory farming or these massive farms. And there's a market for it, but it'd be nice to have this industry like yours, where we start building up these companies, these younger companies, these smaller companies that have a passion for it and that are growing real shit. Because with these factory farms, like, you don't really know
all the genetic seeds, and the companies on the seeds, they own the property.
Oh,
Once you
right.
get
It's all proprietary. It's all patent pending.
And then the farmers are just essentially locked into a situation, and they're growing
Then they
food
start
that's horrible
lying.
for people.
there's bureaucracy, and they grow, and there's a lot of bullshit that happens with it, and it'd be nice to bring back what you guys are doing, and people like you, and really get eyes on this, because I'm sure there is a difference between what you're growing and, say, what you get from factory farm. Not to say that Wisconsin farmers are bad, but I'm sure there's, these massive companies that have gotten to a bad stage.
Oh, right.
And now they're just, like you said, they're just running because they're getting paid from the government, or, I don't know exactly how it goes, but I can only imagine.
Yeah, right. And I mean, I'm, certainly no conventional large scale commercial farmer, right? It's all permaculture based, and, and work with the land, and no sprays or anything ever. And, but I understand to a degree. I mean, I think it's been really hard for a lot of farmers, conventional farmers especially, across the whole country, trying to transition into this, what I think you're describing, referring to, and I totally agree with you. I really feel like there's a renaissance happening, and I hope that it does continue to unfold. And
I can see the difficulty in it, though.
Right.
And that's no knock on farmers. We need farmers.
Definitely. They're we're all dependent on it.
They're very important. So it's
but if they're anything like, Fortune 500 or like these big companies, eventually you kind of see like corruption happening, and I'm sure it happens in a lot of these bigger farming industries. Yeah. But again, I ain't no expert.
Well, no, but I'd agree with you. I mean, I think there's so many, we're just starting to find out what kind of destructive habits, or I guess realizing what kind of destructive habits or consequences these types of techniques have. And it took a while to learn that. It's been an experiment, really. The agricultural revolution, if you want to say it started 5,000-10,000 years ago, well, fine. It's an experiment. Before that, we didn't have it. So as a civilization and humanity, I mean, who knows? Another 1,000 years from now, will it be back to hunter-gatherer type? To some sense, or maybe just a vastly different type of farming, maybe.
Well, I hope we come up with a way to make it sustainable for people like you. And I know, or, people in your industry that are trying to get their name known. And I know, like, I was listening to something about plastics and plastics within our food and plastics within what we consume are a big contributor to, sperm count being lowered and the infertility in males and females. And it's not just like eating out of plastic, but it's also coming back to, I heard them talking about, say cows. And when you're milking these cows, it's coming through plastic tubes. Well, these plastic tubes have, these plastic particles, I don't know what they're called, but that's getting, even from as early as that, it's getting into the milk. And then it's the processing of these milks, these meats, the processing is putting the plastics in. It's not necessarily you microwaving in plastic, which is terrible. And I've seen a lot of people do. And don't do that.
Dan looks at me because I made cauliflower rice in plastic bags. And
I get these things at the store, and I don't know if you saw them, but they come in like a plastic container, and it's like add an egg or something like that.
Okay.
Essentially what it has is just potatoes and sausage in it, and you crack your own egg and put it in, but you microwave it within the plastic.
Okay. Yeah.
Is it bad?
Yeah.
I don't know. But if we can just
brings questions.
Yeah, it brings questions. Yeah. And if you're the type of person that errs on the side of caution, well then you put the stuff in glass. We microwave a lot of stuff in glass or at our house,
Yeah.
I mean,
but it's not cost efficient for these companies to milk cows, and I don't know what you would use. Plastic's just so versatile.
Oh, it is.
And there is, we should start making the movement to move away from these one-time use plastics. But that's not to say that plastics are amazing, because they are. And there's certain applications of plastics that we can use over and over and over again.
Oh, definitely.
Certainly, 100% down for that. But it's these small uses of plastics that these companies are just trying to save a couple dollars on. That I think needs to be addressed.
I agree.
Moving forward.
I definitely agree.
And I'm hoping that, the movement of what you guys are doing in this industry is going to shed light on that with regards to, exactly where this was sourced, the process of how this was sourced, and what you're getting.
Right.
And, it's just thoughts, but
yeah. No, I love it.
There's so much crap in the world, and you just got to be watching out for everything.
For sure. For sure. But I'm definitely with you.
What a perfect embodiment of where we are for getting back to,
no kidding.
to the basics, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Sitting in a teepee.
Yeah. No plastic in here. Maybe a little bit of, I'm not sure, a little bit of coating, some kind of coating on some of the ties, but that's really it. I mean, and I'm with you. I think there's a difference between, okay, are plastics here to stay? Probably, but there's something fundamentally wrong with the bigger picture when it's cheaper to use something that you throw away than to use something that'll last. So we're building things to break. We're building things to be thrown away after 1 year.
That's what nowadays.
That's what Amazon is.
So how much does it cost? How much does it cost? The true cost of someone collecting that garbage and hauling it and then burning it in a landfill. And what's the long-term cost? Are we gonna have to, do something with all these landfill sites at some point?
They say that like 80%, is it like 80% of recyclables don't get recycled?
Yeah,
and it takes more energy. I don't know if this is true, but it takes more energy or more resources for them to take out those plastics or to take out the things that aren't plastic than it is to just throw that plastic in the garbage.
Sure.
And we ship garbage to China, and then China will
look at it, and it's not like cleaned out.
Isn't that
so they
incredible?
recycle it. So
Do we really?
So they send it back. They send it back.
Sure.
So that we waste
I
effort
didn't even know
sending
that.
our garbage that we don't like wash out so they can recycle it.
How is it that cheap to do that?
That's what I'm
Send
saying.
that
You send
across
that on a
the
boat,
world.
on the ocean.
And then how
Like,
much garbage and plastic is
know,
ending up
man.
in the ocean as we send the garbage
I don't know, man.
across the
Yeah,
ocean?
you know about the Pacific Garbage Patch. There are patches in every every one of the
Of just
major world
floating
oceans.
garbage.
Just trash.
Yeah.
Tiny little pieces. You're talking about plastic being in our food. I mean, there's also actual bioaccumulation
That
of
was
plastic in the world's
beads-
oceans.
The beads in
The microbeads,
the microbeads in your face wash.
Yeah.
used to do that, and they were selling that for years and years and
Right.
years. And I don't think they do anymore.
Yeah, I think
But
to a large
regardless-
extent it's been like banned or which is great, And that again, it's humans experimenting a little bit in my mind, and hopefully we learn from mistakes and issues. But
it's always in the oceans now. It's always
right. It's
Always
going
in
to take
the
a long
waterways.
time for them to break down or filter back through the environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, getting away from sin, but I think it just to hit on the point of when people are trying to be, I guess, straightforward in our.
This is exactly
organic
why
in what
we
they're
need
doing.
Yeah.
companies like Sin Foods and these small boutique companies. That's why
Sure.
we need these companies and somehow need to figure out how to make it sustainable. Because you have a bad year, or frost. I don't know the situation, but you'll have bad years where things don't grow.
Sure.
And that happens with farmers. And it's like, well, say that happens and you get no revenue for that year. Well, that sets you back immensely. And
Big
if you're
time.
not getting subsidies from the government to, offset that, bad year, and it just, I can see that multiplying by 100 with smaller companies. And I don't know the solution to it, but somehow I feel like we're going to find the solution.
Yeah, I hope so. I think so too. I'm a cautious optimist in general for pretty much anything. But you touched on subsidies, and this is a very hot topic, especially amongst farmers and conventional farmers, commercial growers and stuff too, that are way we're talking maybe 100, maybe 1,000, 5,000 acres, right? Operations, just huge. And without subsidies, there are a lot of years where they would be done. 1 year they would be done if they didn't have subsidies. But so why should all of our tax dollars be going to subsidize corn if maybe growing monoculture corn on 5,000 acres and dousing it with pesticides doesn't make any fucking sense in the first place? Like, maybe we need to just rethink the whole thing.
ethanol.
Right? Ethanol is a joke. I mean, if I don't know, humble opinions, right? But, if I really get on my soapbox and start going, it's like I think there are better ways to feed people and feed animals.
And there's so much misconception too, where there's narratives like, even with vegans and what they talk about with like 80%, an astronomical number with regards to water is wasted through cows or for like one burger.
Sure.
And it's like, well, they're not taking into effect it's the rainwater. They're not taking into effect the cycle behind it. There was another thing where they release carbon dioxide, is it? Carbon
Or
monoxide?
methane specifically
Methane.
for cows, yeah.
They release methane. Well, they don't say that that's just methane that's in, they're consuming that. It's like methane that's already in the environment.
Sure.
So like we as humans are taking this gas and creating the methane, and that's new added methane. But these cows that are just consuming and recycling it, I mean, that's methane that's already within the atmosphere.
Sure,
That's
I guess
that natural
I
cycle.
wouldn't necessarily disagree with that. I mean, I think maybe there are arguments for for CAFOs, right? Confined animal feeds operations, where maybe you have so many in a small amount of space, and then there's a risk or odor issues and stuff like that, right? We know that exists, but I'm kind of with you. I mean, it's like the buffalo, I mean, what if we would have left in North America, if we just wouldn't have put fences up everywhere and slaughtered trying to exterminate buffalo in the 1800s just to starve the Indians, we wouldn't have done that. We could all just go and shoot a buffalo every couple months and you'd be fine. Like, there's your meat. You don't even need lots for all these cattle and stuff. You just go kill a buffalo. That's how it was designed to work, you know?
Yeah, the universe is very sustainable. The earth is very sustainable. And we kind of, we need to, people create narratives, and that's what I hate. Our people are creating these narratives that, like, this one burger that you're eating is not sustainable because of the amount of rainwater or the amount of water that it's taking. It's like, well,
almonds.
You're creating
one
a
almond
narrative.
takes like 3 gallons of water.
Right,
So
right.
I don't know the exact stat.
Almonds.
There's another thing with food, and you know, I'm not exact on this, but it was almost like 80% of the food that isn't usable is going to the cows because they have a 4-stage.
4 stomachs.
They have 4 stomachs.
Yeah.
So it's like they're saying that, oh, we're feeding the cows all this food that we should, you know, but it's like, no, we can't eat that food. Like, that doesn't make, it's the narrative again. We can't eat that food. That food can only be eaten by cows or these animals that have these, and I think pigs do not. But cows have these 4 stomachs that allows them to eat, you know, these nutshells and whatnot. And again, it's just the narrative that they're selling to people, and it's kind of annoying that there's actual facts behind it. But the internet, you know, the internet's just pushing some bullshit, and somehow we need to figure this out.
Yeah.
Who can post? Who can't?
Right. It's hard to sift through the sea of information that exists out there, but you know, that's one more reason, tying it back to, you know, to source in nature. And what we try to do is, you know, we don't want a laundry list of ingredients on the package for one of our items, right? I mean, you may see some different blends and spices and herbs and stuff in our hot sauces, but it's pretty minimal. Like I said, all the syrup, it's just syrup. You know, like, we're not adding all these stabilizers or all this other stuff that you may be deemed safe by the FDA, but how long have we been doing studies on it? Yeah. Multiple generations? Do we really know? Probably not. No. You know, but again, to each their own. And so if I choose to err on the side of caution and eat a certain way and someone else doesn't, well, okay, fine. If you want to talk about it, let's go. Let's talk about it. But it's all about really just, I think, trying to introduce these amazing foods that are out there to people and get people, you know, once they try them by somebody who knows how to cook with them and use them the right way, you know, then they're hooked usually. And it's a good thing. Yeah.
So I've been interested, I would be interested in asking you your opinion on, like, mushrooms and where you stand with mushrooms, because, like, I believe, you know, in the healing benefits and properties of mushrooms.
Absolutely.
And, you know, linking neurons and what it does to your mind and what it does to synapses in your mind and how it can heal. And do you know who Paul Stamets is?
Absolutely.
Dude, I just...
The Stamets stack, baby.
Yeah. Dude, I love Paul Stamets. I listen to a lot of what he's doing. I take Paul Stamets supplements. I have... they call it like the Stamets 7 or Stamets 8 or something like that. Yeah,
I'm familiar. I've heard all his podcasts and stuff too. He's a great
My
guy.
girlfriend has the Stamets, I think the white, what is it called?
He has a few different blends. Oh yeah, the lion's mane. I take that every day, man. Lion's mane powder.
Dude,
yeah.
I believe in it. You know, everything that Paul Stamets says about these masses, I think, like, the biggest
in the world
mass in the world is a mushroom.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got these ideas that we evolved from mushrooms, and that in the past they would digest from the outside, and then evolving from mushrooms, we, you know, and I'm not saying it exactly, but now we are digesting from the inside. Yeah. And he made this beautiful point on this. So I'd be curious to see, you know, why you grow mushrooms and if you have any thought behind that. Yeah.
No, I love what you said. And again, I'm a big fan of Stamets, and honestly, anybody in that kind of realm or industry who's doing work on this stuff. And, I mean, a lot of people, I'll shout out real quick to Matt's Wild Foods in East Troy, because he's a good buddy and does some awesome stuff down there. And he's cultivating, so he does a lot of farm mushrooms. I think mushrooms are amazing for a lot of reasons, right? So you touched on one that I could go down a rabbit hole on, but I'll try to make it brief. But you know, we all genealogically, you go back far enough, right? We all descended from something common, at least depending on what you believe. We descended from some common ancestor. And so at some point there's a direct link with our you know, genetic code with fungi. And And the thought is, as more people do research and the archaeological, record and stuff, is that, these mushrooms were fairly advanced life forms, if you want to say, early on, hundreds of millions of years ago. And so there are a lot of, similarities. There would be, for example, maybe we share more DNA with them than some other type of animal or type of life form or something than we might realize. So I think based on that fact, there are a lot of benefits that we could draw from them, right? Because what we know about mushrooms, or starting to find out certainly, is that there's so many symbiotic relationships. There are plenty of parasitic ones too with mushrooms, right? But a lot of them, we know mushrooms can help heal people and provide us sustenance, nutrition, and energy. We know that it does it for other animals too. Stamets specifically has found some amazing results on bees and what some of the mushrooms can do for bee populations.
He saved the world through bees.
You kind of wonder, the guys, you listen to the guy's podcast, you think he did it a couple times, and I mean that in an endearing way. I'm very appreciative of him and the work he and his team do. But the mushrooms are so special. They've been around for a long time. There's a lot of folklore around them. So many different indigenous cultures around the world that use them and recognize their power and benefits, thousands of years before we had laboratories to do these significant tests on, but people knew there was something good about them. Yeah. Right. And I think it's a tragedy that we've lost that common knowledge to a large extent over the last couple centuries, but I think there is a resurgence. I think it's happening. I'm privileged and honored to think I'm a part of it, and try to be part of it. But some of the, the versatility of these non-plant, non-animal living creatures, you can farm some of them you can't, right? Like the morel, everybody wants that morel mushroom. They're fleeting and you can't grow them, at least not yet. We haven't figured it out. Yeah. But there's some added, mystery and mystique and stuff there too. You almost appreciate them more. But then how powerful they are, that you can put them on logs in the right temperature and humidity. They don't need light. Let's not forget that. So much of what's on our planet is driven by the sun. Yeah. These things don't need the sun. Arguably they do, because they decompose stuff that needed the sun, right? But they don't need the sun to survive. That's amazing, just right there.
Yeah, as a plant or as a fungi. Yeah.
Right. But the benefits. Chaga, the medicinal mushrooms. So we're huge into foraging. Everything you can. Medicinal mushrooms, edible mushrooms. Some of them that are both, like reishi. I love eating fresh reishi. And then I have reishi tea all the time too. They grow on certain ones grow on different species of trees, right? So it's just like this endless, like puzzle that you're trying to piece together and see how Mother Nature works, but also accepting the reality that you probably won't discover all these mysteries, at least not in our lifetime. And there's something cool about that too. Yeah,
well, they get lost. That's what sucks.
Sure.
And I think we are at the point now where a lot of that was lost. I believe that, we sway like to a hard right and then to a hard left, and like over hundreds of years, you just keep swaying back and forth, and it's relevant in like politics or a lot of other different things where it just keeps swaying back and forth. And that's what I think with, knowledge is essentially, okay, so we lost all this knowledge, and I think people are getting, there's a saying.
How we got heavy metal and mumble rap.
Yeah. Hard times breed hard people breed easy times breed soft people. Soft people breed hard times.
Yep.
Yeah. So that, that's the cycle that keeps happening. And I think right now, this is just an opinion, but I think we had hard times, say in the 40s, 30s, 40s, and now we're swaying to that. Okay. So that hard times brought about soft people. And I think or soft men is what they say, which I'm assuming means people. And I'm saying people because
that's right.
So
I like it. It is people. Absolutely.
But we're now, okay. So 30s, 40s, 50s, we bred that. We had those hard times, and now we're at that point where now we're breeding a lot of soft people. And that's what seems today is, okay, so we're losing a lot of this ancient wisdom. We're breeding all of these soft people, and it almost seems like moving forward, we're going to have hard times in the next, 100 years. Hopefully, maybe we're not a part of what that turns into, but it seems like it could be pretty catastrophic in the next 60 years.
Sure.
I forgot the point where I was going.
Well, I'd love to say something on that, touch on that. hearing you say that, I really like it, and I think I tend to agree with you. You know, just seeing the world is how it is, and interacting with people and young people. I mean, we're I think all young ourselves, right? I'm 32. I mean, but I definitely am worried about the future, worried about my daughter, and I have another child on the way, worried about them, right? So it's like, but something I've really started to love and sort of prescribe to. The Potawatomi were a prevalent tribe in this area historically, and I know a lot of other indigenous cultures have similar kind of sayings, but you think 7 generations back and 7 forward, right? If you can live your life kind of in that mantra. So 7 generations back, there were things that those people were doing that are impacting arguably what I do today, where certain foods are, trees are out in the environment, what kind of populations of animals, or what kind of, structures may or may not be left. What did they learn and pass down through written or word? And then 7 generations forward. So what can I do for those people 200 years from now, for my offspring? What does their life look like? What can I do now that's going to help them somehow? And if you think about that, it's like this massive, it almost feels like things are caving in on you, at least for me. That's nice. But it's definitely I think a powerful, point of perspective to have, and try to do something, some little part, your part, whatever you think that is.
Yeah. It's scary, because then you think about, the Pareto distribution.
A little bit. Yeah, a little bit of it.
So it's, the 1% being the Pareto distribution, and now, that 1% is now becoming the 1% of the 1%. And then it's almost like you just see so much corruption. And
well, explain what that it is before you go into it.
The what?
The Pareto distribution.
The Pareto distribution is basically, there's an exponential growth to everything. And the exponential growth doesn't stop, and there's no way to figure, we don't know how to stop that exponential growth. So essentially, when you're making money, there's an exponential growth to that money, and you don't stop making that amount of money. So when you talk about these Fortune 500s or the 1%, now there's the 1% of the 1%, and it just keeps growing up and up and up in that curve.
And essentially, regardless of scenario, situation, the same people, you take the money away, they would find the money
again.
Ain't that
it would come back to them. It's almost like the stimulus. You put this stimulus out. You think all that money went to local business?
No, for sure not.
No, it went right back to the people that
Walmart,
probably
Target.
lobbied for this stimulus package.
Sure,
and then you look at these stimulus packages. We don't have to get into politics.
I'm with you though. Hey, fire up the printer, boys. Let's go. We need some more money. I mean, we're just gonna print it. Here it is.
But go ahead.
No, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. No, I don't know. I feel like I hear what you're saying. I mean, again, we'll see what
just
happens
thoughts,
in the future. Yeah, no, it's cool,
thoughts.
man. This is dialogue.
That's why I like talking to small businesses. It's fun to see people going after their own thing.
Yeah, doing what you love.
Yeah. I guess from a business perspective, what was the biggest challenge of starting Sin Foods?
It would be transit. I mean, just being totally honest, blunt about it, I guess, the financial piece and trying to transition. I mean, I think every business, small, medium, large, whatever, certainly has its challenges, but trying to do it right so that we're not, we don't want to be tied down to a bank for some exorbitant amount of money, right? We want to have true, organic growth, and once we're ready to take that next step, well, then we have to find the money to take that next step, and that means we have to balance our approach and how we sell out our inventory, and when we can go and forage, and when we can go and what the timing is of all these things. I mean, it's your schedule, depending on the time of the year, is dictated by Mother Nature, right? And that's a humbling thing, because so much of our society and economy is built on the exact opposite, right? Like, you go to work at the same time every single day, no matter what, because those are the hours of operation. That's when you show up. That's when you work. It doesn't matter if it's snowing or raining or whatever, you go. Well, the mushrooms don't care what you're doing, right? When they grow, when the humidity's right and it's warm enough at night and not too hot during the day, and you have moisture, and then they're gonna come. They'll be in certain spots, but not others, depending on the year. So I mean, you're very, very much at the mercy of Mother Nature, and trying to work with her instead of against her, I guess, is what I would say. That's something I'm big on.
And that's why it'd be smart to have all these different products, is just in case something were to happen, you have this, or maybe it's seasonal too.
Sure.
Each product is for a season. So we have maple syrup, we have honey.
That's right.
We have mushrooms.
We have mushrooms, which I'll go through a rundown of those, and it really
And where do you
depends.
forage those?
So we forage all over the state of Wisconsin.
And you just go on a trip and
We go. I mean, a lot of foragers will tell you they have their spots, right? And I mean, we certainly have some spots, but it's always, in my mind, more fun to go explore new territory.
sure.
And it's predominantly private land that we go on, and we work with landowners for stuff like the ramps and the fiddleheads and sustainably
pay them
harvest.
for those, or how
yeah,
does
so
that
we work out. It depends who it is. We have some kind of understanding or arrangement, and
What is it like? Is it like they get a percentage of the profits, or you just kind of give them an upfront?
yeah. So
Cost,
it
or-
really just depends on who it is and what we're doing there, and
What's like the average? What usually happens?
we give somebody maybe a couple $100 or something, and they are happy that
Cool.
they got anything because we wanted to come play around in their woods for a couple days or something. You know what I mean? I mean, so many people tend to not really care, or they're just interested maybe, or they say, I mean, one thing you gotta, I guess, kind of understand or take away is that a lot of the spots that we go to for something like ramps or something like the fiddleheads, I mean, you get into an area of woods where virtually nothing but ramps is what you see for like, hundreds of yards in every direction. And you could walk 200 yards this way, and then you would just keep seeing them rolling. So like they're all over if you know where to look and everything else. And
I've never heard the term ramps. Have
No,
you?
or you're saying
Wild
you're
onions.
saying
Yeah.
Wild
inside-
onions.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
I should probably
fiddleheads, I
like
was
describe.
yeah,
So
ramps.
fiddleheads are an ostrich fern. So it's a fern. A lot of people know fern. Ostrich fern is a certain one that's pretty prevalent in our area in Wisconsin here. And it when they slowly come out of the ground and emerge and sort of unfurl, it's called a fiddlehead, but it's almost like a little letter P, a bright green letter P before the frond, before the leaf of the fiddlehead really opens up. So you take those, and they're really good. You boil them. You always boil them first, and then you do whatever you want with them, but throw them with a little bit of butter in a pan and something, and fry them up, and they're delicious. It's like an asparagus, but it's got definitely an extra element to taste and some more there. A lot of times they grow in low-lying, more wet environments. And the ramps are a wild onion. Allium tricoccum is a genus species name. They look almost like lily of the valley, and when you see them in the woods, it's just two big green leaves sticking up. But they're like a perfect mix between garlic and onion. And it's a little bulb on the bottom,
I'd
kind of
love to
like a
try one of
shallot,
those.
most similar to like a shallot maybe.
Sure.
And you can eat the whole plant. You can even eat the roots.
Why don't I see those in grocery stores?
Well, because they're
Because you got to go hunting in the woods.
yeah,
for
they're a
them.
challenge to get, maybe to find to some extent for sure. Down here they're a lot harder to find. You go north and they're a lot more prevalent.
Okay.
And they're throughout a lot of different parts of the U.S. In forests, but it's just tough. It's a seasonal item. They're here for maybe a few weeks, maybe a little bit more, like in one local area, and then they're gone. And they grow, right. They start small. They grow. You can't really cultivate them. At least I don't know how.
Sure.
Circles back to our original conversation of large producers of,
Right.
Oh,
of
yeah.
things.
Right. Yeah, you go. We do what we can. We get several hundred pounds, over 1,000 pounds out of the woods. I think this past season here, the ramps really just stopped. I have like our last 10 pounds, in the cooler over here. But those are delicious, and so those are used for everything from. You eat them fresh, you dehydrate the leaves. We use the leaves in some of our rubs or hot sauces and stuff. You pickle the bulbs, you eat the bulbs fresh. You make kimchi out of the leaves. There are so many different uses for this plant, and they're delicious and really good for you too.
Yeah.
But all these different things we do. So circling back, those are two big items we forage. The mushrooms. So you have morels when we find them, right? Pheasant back mushrooms, which are really good, or dryad saddle they're called. That are pretty commonplace, not necessarily a really high choice edible, but they're pretty good. Fun things like scarlet elf cups, which are these bright red they look like cups, an elf cup right there out in the woods.
Sure.
So kind of a fun name, and they hold their color even when you cook with them. Those are like some of the first mushrooms to emerge, so those are always fun. Chanterelles, chicken of the woods, hen of the woods, or maitake.
Okay.
The reishi, chaga, which is my favorite thing to forage, is chaga,
Why is that?
because you can do it in winter.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's not a mushroom like you picture a mushroom looking like. It's almost like a burl on a tree. It's this big black brown kind of knot on a tree, and they grow from the inside out. Sometimes they almost look like a torpedo or like a corkscrew coming out of the tree,
Yeah.
or like a big kind of ball coming out of a tree.
And those are really good for you.
Really good. Yeah. I'm a huge believer in
chaga.
I mean, people in this part of the world and like, you know, what's now Russia, but Siberia area historically used it for all sorts of different things.
Yeah.
It's really good, but we make the tea from the chaga. We're trying to get into turkey tail and do some turkey tail, like tinctures and stuff, which is also very good.
Yeah, turkey tail is a very good one too. I mean, they're all
amazing,
I think turkey tail is really good for cancer. Is what I've heard.
Yeah, I mean, the more I read and like listen to different people about, it seems like so many of these mushrooms are.
That's why you just need to take mushrooms.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Just take a mushroom supplement.
Yeah, in many different forms. I mean, you consume these things, but yeah, then you got lobster mushroom, black trumpet mushrooms, porcinis, hedgehog mushrooms. So I mean, that's really, there's a lot of names I threw out, but that's really like most of the choice edibles in this part of the part of the country that we go after. And go ahead.
Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you. So what got you into this? Because all those things I've never heard of in my life. You know, how do you find out? Well, I'm sure one, and then really get into that.
Yeah. It's a little gateway, I guess.
Yeah.
Right. You see one, hey, morels, I love those mushrooms. They're really good. Well, what other mushrooms are there? Well, then you start looking. Then you buy a field guide. And then maybe you go and you read a few books. You listen to some podcasts, whatever. But what started for me, I mean, I had some exposure when I was younger. I grew up basically in the forest, and playing in there all the time and kicking puffball mushrooms around when I was a kid and pretending they were a soccer ball. And every once in a while we would slice one up and cook with it. And some big elm trees went down the one year when I was in middle school or high school, I think, and morels popped up, and then we cooked up morels with the neighbors. And so just a few little events like that when I was younger that helped kind of shape the interest and curiosity, if nothing else. Going to school for conservation, environmental science, and biology, and I was fortunate to spend a lot of time doing some more research and working with, at the time in like 2010, 11, the School of Freshwater Sciences at UW Milwaukee, and getting into aquaponics and all these different things. But the mushrooms are just, I think it's a lifelong passion. If you have any interest, you just keep going further and further and further into it.
Yeah.
So going back to the product line, you have the mushrooms, and then the specialty sauces. So maple barbecue, honey barbecue, and that's the maple from our maple syrup and the honey from our raw honey. And then a candied jalapeno hot sauce, which has some of the jalapenos and has some of the ramps in it, some other things. And then we call it a vinegar, but it's apple cider vinegar with some of that candied jalapeno sauce in it. So that's vinegar.
Yeah. That too is extremely good for you, apple cider vinegar.
Yes, really good for you. Definitely.
Extremely good.
And then a few other fun things like black garlic. We do black garlic. That's really tasty. We have some candles from the beeswax from the hives. So we do morel shaped, like morel molds of candles, a couple sizes of candles.
Cool.
And then the whole other realm of that was linked together with Sin Foods prior to the last few months is Sin, or Source in Nature cannabis, which is all the hemp. The CBD oil, which we have, and the dropper bottles, and then we have smokable flour of all the different varieties, as well as a muscle gel, almost like a kind of an icy hot, but the muscle gel with the CBD in it, and CBG and CBC, all these different cannabinoids that are in the plant that are.
What's CBG and CBC? I never heard of them.
So they're just like CBD is just one of many cannabinoids in the plant, but there's increasing research. It seems like. Pointing to so many of these different cannabinoids being good for certain things. Maybe this one's more anti-anxiety and stress, and this one's more for aches and pains and arthritis, or whatever specific may be.
Yeah, and that's something too that I want to get into with you is hemp and the hemp industry and what you guys are doing with that. And we know in the past hemp was shut down basically because the paper company wanted to survive. A very broad reasoning was they made it illegal, and then
hemp can replace a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Well, that's why they made it illegal, right? In the past, and then they kind of put it on the drug cartel that was bringing it up, and they put a bad stigma on that, and then banned hemp. But hemp could have taken over as a very great resource.
Replace clothes, cotton, stuff like that.
Well, you said replace, and it's interesting because hemp was already replaced by what we have conventionally, traditionally now. But I'm with you. I think it can and should replace a lot of what we currently have. I mean, in the 20s, 30s, 40s, it was big business, and there was a lot of I mean, Wisconsin historically, specifically, was like the number one producer, at least for a time, of hemp in the country.
And why don't we?
Right. Why don't we? I mean, I think I was just having a conversation last night about some of this, which was like the textile industry. And I don't know a ton about it, right? So I'm going to just preface it with that. But I think there are a decent amount of growers out there who want, and some who are, growing hemp for that type of industry, more industrial uses, textiles, clothing, right? They're hemp plastics, if you will, the biodegradable stuff that can grow it and do it well and harvest it. And then I feel like they don't have anywhere to take it to. It's like there's not a processor. There isn't somebody saying, hey, we're paying this much, per ton, and we need it now. We always need it, so bring it in. So without that consistent end game or goal of, well, even if the market fluctuates and it's this price or that price, there isn't even anywhere to take it.
That's interesting.
I feel like for that piece. Now, on the other hand, you have a whole slew of, producers for oil. And for smokable flower too, but like the hemp oil, CBD oil, I mean, that's hugely popular. And I believe in it. It works. It really does. If you haven't tried it, you should. Or just don't knock it until you do, kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan for like the smokable, but when it comes to, the roll-on, the patches, anything like that, I think it's super beneficial for people.
Sure.
I like it. I got in a car accident and I used it. So.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, this time of year, especially when I'm in the woods like this and planting everything out in the farm and everything, I'm putting that source of nature cannabis, that muscle gel, all over my back and neck and shoulders and stuff, and it makes a huge difference, man. Yeah.
Do you have any plans? I mean, we're assuming that cannabis is going to be legalized. Maybe
you'd
within
think
the
at
next
some point
5 years in Wisconsin. I mean, it's not going to be soon.
I mean, they already have Delta 8.
No,
so
right.
it's like,
Who knows though? Who knows what'll happen with that? Maybe that'll get.
Do you have a plan moving forward to say it is legalized to be a part of that industry?
I mean, I guess I can say that there would be a hope to be part of it. I think it would really, really hinge on what lawmakers in Wisconsin specifically decided. What would the rules be? How many licenses would there be? What would they cost? What's the entry fee, right? So some states are very different than others in how they do that. Is it more, you can grow a few plants at home regardless of whether you sell it or not, or do you have to be a licensed producer and only a few producers can grow it? I'm not sure. But we would be, certainly be happy and excited, look forward to being part of that industry if it comes to fruition here. And I think the hemp is here to stay regardless, right? A lot of states that have both legalized, they sell a good amount of CBD and of recreational. So I think there's, hope for the future. And I would think, we're in some different stores with the hemp products throughout the state already. And we certainly plan on continuing to grow and develop that.
Under Sin Foods?
Under Sin Foods or Source of Nature or Sin Cannabis now. So 3 months ago, we filed papers for Sin Cannabis.
I mean, the name works with a lot.
Sin Cannabis,
for
sure.
Cannabis just sounds cool.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I got it. Yeah. Props to my guy, Brian, business partner. He's a very creative person. He really is.
He came up with the name.
Yep. I mean, I'd like to say that some of our conversations over the past few years maybe would play into it a little bit, right? But he's that's his name, man. It's a good one. It's fun, and that's going back to the products. That's some of the fun stuff to develop these things. And what are the names? Our one hemp variety last year was cheese curds, and we named that and submitted it to the state, right? And it's like that's it's fun. There's some you got to have some fun with this, and it's all about having fun and being with good people and family and treating your body well and taking care of yourself, healing past traumas, all that.
100%.
Yeah.
There's a store in Milwaukee maybe I could connect you with called Kind Oasis, if you've ever heard of them.
Okay.
Great store. The owner is Salem. His family has owned this building for, I think, like over 100 years.
Oh, wow. Awesome.
And he recently, it was rugs because they're Persian.
Okay.
And they he recently, him and his father, I think, tossed the rugs aside and they opened up this Kind Oasis.
Okay.
And it's a local store that it has a bunch of local artists and what people are making they put in there, but they also have a large CBD selection.
Nice.
They own the building, so on one of the floors they make their own CBD gummies, they make their own stuff.
Oh, awesome.
He has an excellent vision, and I'm hoping in the next couple weeks we're going to have a podcast with him. We're going to do it in Kind Oasis. It's a beautiful space. But Salem would be somebody for you to connect with.
I'd love that, yeah.
And just have a
Be
conversation.
great. For sure. Always trying to network.
I'd love to facilitate that, and maybe that's something I can follow up on. I guess.
Thank you, yeah.
No problem. Wrapping this up, we're kind of interested in, what your dream is moving forward.
Sure.
Where do you see Sin Foods going, and where do you see yourself going?
Yeah, so I appreciate the question. Been an awesome conversation, time hanging out with you guys. I mean, I'm very hopeful for the future. Again, I'm a cautious optimist at heart, I think, in general.
You gotta be.
Right? You gotta be.
The best,
it's the way to live, I think. It is. Yeah. But no, I think I see Source of Nature, Sin Foods specifically, hopefully growing pretty expansively in the near future. Mm-hmm. We're really in our, a lot of the product development. There'll always be product development, but a decent portion of that I think is behind us now. We have a decent lineup with a good amount of products like I was able to share with you guys here. And, we really just want to get that into the hands and mouths of people all around Wisconsin. We have a pretty good base around the state already, but just expand more and then start doing even more work. We do some limited work out of state, but some other work out of state with some really cool suppliers in a few different key cities and just kind of grow and expand from there. I think my vision would be within a few years, there's some added hardware, meaning, probably a little outbuilding and some more infrastructure for distribution. I mean, instead of, a back of your car filled to the roof and everything with all the seats down, with all the sauces and syrups, or our delivery van even, which is a big van filled. It's like, do you have a truck? Do you need a box truck? Do we need an outbuilding with a skid loader? And we have a few pallets of these things going. But I say that, with a little bit of trepidation, or maybe that's not the best word, but we don't want to do this to get big and blow up. And we want to be able to provide, a decently steady stream as far as you can is with the seasonality and that portion of it, but a steady stream of amazing foods that help people, that heal people, that people enjoy, that comes from the land, that comes from hands working with it. And we want to do that to the best of our ability. And maybe we'll have a small team. I kind of envision maybe a team of some different foragers throughout the state ultimately that sort of funnel in, through us, and we can do quality control and package that stuff and everything. But we're doing it, together as a network, sustainably, as kind of our own tribe and our own little group of like-minded individuals. So I think there's ripe opportunity. Really ecstatic to continue working and expand working with some of the restaurants in the area and some of our chefs that we love, that have been with us from the beginning, as well as some of the stores that we've been working with on the retail side. We touched on the hemp and hopes for the future there, right, within the next 2, 4, 5 years, whatever it may be. But in the meantime, we really want to get that CBD into the hands of the people that need it and want to experiment with it. And just really have time out in the environment, be in the forest.
More people need it.
They do. I mean, we all do. It's a privilege that I have, that I can go out and do some of this stuff, and it's hard work. No qualms or anything there, though. It's rewarding work, and it's work that I'm honored to do and love it. Yeah.
Well, Ben, we really appreciate your time.
Very much
for
so.
sure. Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you very much. This has been Becoming Alpha. Ben from Sin Foods, everybody. Please like and subscribe. And we'd be happy to facilitate any of those conversations and anything we can do for you.
Awesome.
Feel free to reach out.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.